And we're recording. Welcome, everybody, to today's episode. My name is Bryce Tubbs. With me today is Brad Norwood. He is a bucket list coach who is helping businesses use experience and incentive travel to increase engagement and revenue. So this is going to be very, very important. He's going to be giving you guys some tips as to how to actually check off your bucket list. I'm sure that finances may be an issue for some people, and that may be the biggest thing stopping them from wanting to travel and actually live the life that they deserve. But I'm sure it's going to be great for you. I don't know why my printer just started, but whatever. So is there anything else that you'd like me to add to this, add to the introduction, Brad?
No, thanks, Bryce. I appreciate you having me today.
Excellent. So, what was life like before you got into incentive travel and into coaching?
Well, I started with aspirations of becoming a golf professional. Then I realized that there was a major difference in a golf professional and a professional golfer. Golf professionals don't play much golf, so I got out of that quickly and actually went into teaching. I taught for 13 years in our local school district before I went out on my own, started my own business.
Okay. That's actually a very interesting point with the professional golf. That's actually really interesting. So, so what was that trigger point that actually got you, to go from teaching into coaching?
I've always kind of had an entrepreneur mindset. My family tells me I like to chase squirrels, but I like to go and do things. And I'm a big starter. Always have ideas and I like to try them out. I'm a risk taker. By nature, a little bit of a gambler. Love to take those risks, and it was an actual golf trip that I put together for a group of buddies. That was kind of the light that came on for me and said, you know what, I'd like to do this on my own. It's a way for me to get back to my passion of golf. Let's try it out.
That's actually pretty cool. So, who do you generally work with? Like, actually, no, a better question is, what problem are people trying to solve when they come and start wanting to work with you?
Yeah, people are trying to solve really appreciation problems, retention problems, and growth in revenue. Incentives work 2 to 3 times better than cash bonuses do. And so they're really trying to pour into their people with things other than cash. And they don't have to be extravagant. It can be as simple as, let's have a company cookout, right? And show the appreciation. But the key is that you do something, right? So whether it's the cookout or whether you take a trip to Jamaica, whether you take a team to the Masters, the key is that you do something. And when you do that something, you show that appreciation.
Okay. That's interesting. So then can you talk about kind of like getting into these larger corporations and these different companies? Because I'm sure that's a little bit, it's not an easy task.
It's not an easy task, but also what I sell, what I just kind of explained to you is the appreciation. The foundation of that is building relationships. And so that's what I do. My sales process can be up to 2 to 3 years long, simply because I have to build that relationship and that trust with that company to say, look, I can do this for you. And I model for them simply how I do that. And sometimes that trust circle takes 6 months to a year to build.
Yeah. That's interesting. Well, at least it's probably worth it when you actually do it because of, just the scale of the company. That's interesting. So then, like, what type of companies do you do this with?
All kinds. I've worked with companies that have, small companies. I hate the term small business because I'm a business owner, and my business is everything to me. It's not small at all, right? So I've worked with companies with employees of only 10 employees. We've worked with companies up to, 10,000 employees. We've taken up to 250 people on a trip at one time. So all ranges, all kinds. The only qualification you've got to have work with me is that you want to get better and you want to appreciate your people.
Well, you touched on something very interesting about, like the word small or when defining a business, right? Can you talk about, the earlier days of when you started becoming an entrepreneur? What was it like? Did you have a good support system? Were people negative around you?
I had a great support system. Before I took the leap, I confided obviously in my family and in a lot of friends. It was and still is stressful at times. When you depend on the income that you produce,
Yeah.
that can become stressful. But I've had a very supportive network of friends and family that have been around me. I've got a great board of directors and people that I can go to with questions, and have just surrounded myself fortunately, with good people. And last but not least, I worship a God who is faithful, and lots of prayer has been involved.
There's lots of that's interesting. Yeah. So, you know, if you could go back to when you were first starting your business, what would you tell yourself?
I would tell myself that this doesn't happen overnight.
Mm,
That's the biggest thing that I've learned. I had the idea. I had a quick win right off the bat, and I thought, man, this is going to be easy. And not that I wanted it to be easy,
uh,
but I thought, boy, this is going to go somewhere fast.
yeah.
And it doesn't. I've learned. You hear the cliche that most businesses fail within 5 years.
Yeah.
Well, I've learned that the reason that happens is because people quit. It's not because it's a bad business.
Mm,
It's because people give up and they don't want to work hard. They
yeah.
don't want to put the time and effort into it. Some people just get worn out by it. They're not made for it.
Uh,
Uh, Fortunately, as a risk taker and a gambler, I'm made for a little bit of it. So I can endure the longevity that's required. But yeah, I would definitely go back and say, hey, look, this is not going to happen overnight.
so then, what would you change in your preparation for that longer journey? How would you prepare for it?
Well, it's what I do now. I was bad at the beginning of, I had goals that I wanted to hit, but I really had no plan. And I
Mm,
understand now that, after 6 years of doing this, and I do it every day. In fact, just had a conversation with a client a minute ago that, look, I've got 8 things that I'm going to do today. Okay. And those 8 things have to be done in order for me to accomplish a goal that's going to be accomplished in May. And so it's creating that plan that's so important to accomplishing the goal. And the plan has to be detailed. It has to be literally day by day,
uh,
sometimes hour by hour,
wow.
in order for you to hit that goal. And so I tell myself, and that's what I coach as well. But going forward, again, this isn't going to happen overnight. We've got to have a day by day plan. We're going to celebrate little victories along the way, and we're going to really party when we get there.
That's interesting. So the little victories. In order, do you? How do you identify what a little victory is, right? Because oftentimes when you're in the journey and you're going through negativity, it's like one day something small happens and you feel great, but the next day a bunch of things happen, you forget about that little win. So how do you keep track of little wins? How do you define little wins?
That's right. So little wins, you always celebrate them. Again, I don't care if it's as simple as a high five.
Mm,
Celebrate the little victory. I just told you I've got 8 things to do today, right? If I
uh,
get those 8 things done, today's celebration will be a nice dinner at home. If those 8 things aren't done, dinner probably changes a little bit tonight, right? Don't have the time to cook and prepare what needs to be done. Uh, Dad's not as maybe as happy when the kids come home, type of deal. I hold myself accountable to my family, and my kids will come home and ask, Dad, how did you do today? How many calls did you make? Did you get
oh,
this stuff done? And so we can high five and say, yes, today was a great day. Or, and let's go to failure for a minute. Let's say I only get 7 of the 8 done. Still a little win, right? Still a little win. We've got one more thing that we've got to get done tomorrow first. But we've got a little win. Hey, it was a good day. It wasn't a failure. Sometimes life happens though. And when life gets in the way, that's all about how you can adjust. And when you can adjust, overcome life getting in the way and get back on schedule, there's another little win for you.
can you talk about there's a couple of things I'd like to unpack in that. You know, getting your kids involved and your family involved in success. Can you give tips on how to do that?
Well, fortunately, I started when they were young. I started my business when my oldest child was just 6 years old, and so he's kind of grown up with it per se. Uh, so if my kids were older when I started, um, I guess it's the same way. I just keep them informed the whole way. Hey, this is what Dad's doing. Dad's going to leave this job to start his own. We're going to have a business. This is the goals of the business. This is the vision of the business, and this is why we're doing it. So that when you go to college and graduate, maybe you could take over this business. I got a great story about my oldest son. His passion is to be a pilot. He loves airplanes. He wants to be a pilot. And he told me about 3 years ago, he said, Dad, when I get bigger and can have my pilot license, maybe the company will be successful enough that we'll have our own plane.
Yeah.
And then I can be the pilot. And I just laugh. I almost tear up telling you that now, but it's like, you know what? His name is Bryce as well. I said, Bryson, listen, son. I said, if you do that, then that means we've both made it. And nothing makes me more proud. So they love to be involved. My kids love to know. My middle son, his name is Braxton. If you follow me on LinkedIn or social media at Dream It Pro, you'll see a lot of posts of my middle son, Braxton. I call him our coordinator of fun. And I think every company should have a coordinator of fun. In fact, that's what I want to be for a lot of companies. But Braxton is always involved and can kind of gauge when things are getting tense within our family, and he'll say, hey, let's go do this, or he'll just be silly, and kind of break up the mood a little bit. And so Monday morning this week, he came up, saw that I was upstairs just working hard, and he said, Dad, let's take a break and let's go play some putt-putt. So you know what? We had our things done for the morning. We went and played a little putt-putt at lunch and came home and grinded out the afternoon. So it's fun to involve family.
Can you expand, like how rewarding is it to, once things are starting to work and you have your flow of, activities, to be able to kind of set your own schedule?
Oh man, there's nothing better. There's nothing better. My biggest fear in life is to have to go back to work for someone else. Now that I've got a taste of the medicine of what it's like to work for myself and live at the freedom of my own schedule, that's priceless. And if you've read Tim Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Work Week, he lays out a great plan on how you can do that even when you work for someone else. And I've kind of followed that plan, and then the bucket list life plan that I coach has some basis into that as well. But life is too short to put yourself bound to a schedule all the time, and so having that freedom as an entrepreneur is unbelievable.
So let me ask you this, right? So, we understand what triggered you into doing it because you talked about that earlier, but what were your motivations in the early days? Like why did you want to, go on this journey?
I wasn't burned out in my current job, but I was getting close. I could feel it coming on. And I was ready for, again, I'm kind of a risk taker, a gambler per se. I was ready for a different challenge. I was just ready to see what it was like. I was working with kids and I loved working with kids. My purpose still to this day is to help people. And I was fulfilling that in teaching kids, but I wasn't involved necessarily with my passion. And again, my passion was golf and getting out and entertaining. And I've learned now that my passion is, while I still love the game of golf and passionate about it, my true passion is hospitality. And that serves in the purpose of my purpose of helping people.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool. Yeah. I mean, that sounds like a really, like once a person's able to kind of get that kind of business going, I know it's extremely challenging because of like how hard it is to get the clients, but that sounds like it's really worth it,
Oh, absolutely. Again, I left the best job in the world to create the best job in the world. Working for yourself, it just can't be beat.
And that's probably cool because now, you know, when your company does go on vacation, you probably can bring your kids with you. I don't know.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
And then write it off as a tax write-off.
That's right. We have to be cautious of the school schedule. But you know what? Even in learning, just as it is in incentives, there's nothing that beats experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you can create that experience, whether it's just a relaxation experience or whether it's a full-blown learning experience, you can learn anywhere, right? We can learn in the classroom, we can learn in the office, we can learn outdoors, we can learn in the mountains, we can learn at the beach. It's all about that experience, and that's what people will always remember.
So, you know, okay, here's a good question. Do you consider life and business the same?
You know, I consider my life plan is where my career fits into that. Mm-hmm. And so not where my life fits into my career. I make my business fit into my life. And I coach people to do that as well through the Bucket List Life Plan. Life, I said it earlier, life is too short to be succumbed to a calendar and to have to live by that schedule every day. Life is too short to be in a job that you just dread, that you're showing up for a paycheck and you're getting nothing else out of it. Am I telling you to quit your job? No. I won't tell you to quit your job unless you're headed for something that I would invest in personally. But life is too short to be miserable. People say all the time, well, you only live once. And I've got the opposite philosophy of that. You're going to die once. You should live every day. Yeah. And take advantage of every day that you're given.
So what does success look like, you know, first for your business, then we can do for another one too. What does that look like for you?
Success in my business will be, a lot of people say that success is in the journey, and I totally disagree with that. I think the journey is the hard work. The journey is where I'm at right now. It's where we're all at right now. The journey is where, like you said, when life happens, things get in the way and we don't get those small wins. That's the journey. Success to me is in the destination. When you get to that place that you want to be, when you've hit that vision. My vision personally is for my company to be able to fully fund all three of my children, not only through college, but to give them enough to live on and begin their own lives, whether they want to start their own businesses or whatever they want to do. I want them to be financially secure with that. And success is knowing personally in my life that they know what it means to be in Norwood, to have faith and family as our primary values.
All right. Can you give a quick tip or, you know, maybe even a story about handling setbacks? Because like you're talking about, it's really fun, it's very rewarding, but, you know, sometimes there are those little setbacks. How can someone who's maybe new to entrepreneurship either get through that or not let it distract you?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think the reason that setbacks are so dangerous is because we let them hold us back, right? We don't let them just do what they're supposed to do and set us back. We let them hold us back. And so we get pushed backwards by maybe a financial situation, a lost deal, and we dwell on that. We just dwell and dwell and dwell, and we continue to make excuses. Things would be so much better if this would have happened, if this would have happened. Well, that's not what happened. So use the setback to learn and then go forward with what can be better. What did you learn from it? Was it your fault? Probably was. 9 out of 10 times, I bet it was your fault. You know, whether you could have planned differently, designed differently, whatever it was, 9 out of 10 times is probably your fault. Okay. We didn't communicate well enough or whatever. And so learn from that experience and don't let it hold you back. Don't continue to make the excuse after excuse of if this, then that, and if this, then that. No, learn from it. Take what you've learned and make yourself better.
Excellent. You know, so